Hey, Dr. Bill here. So we are going to have an exciting Meet the Mentor with my dear friend Ryan Powers. But before we do, let me tell you, this is the first year ever that we're going to do LEAP at Pepperdine. Now, this is our 18th year, so we're not new at this, but UCLA is converting our area into an Olympic village. Yay! Bad for LEAP. So we will be at the Pepperdine University. The dates for LEAP this year, July 13th to the 19th. We will have an amazing lineup. I'm super excited about this year. And doing Pepperdine, it's such a beautiful, beautiful campus. So what is LEAP? LEAP is an entrepreneurship program for high school and college students aged 15 to 25 that we have taught at UCLA for the last 16 years. What do we teach? We teach students skills to be successful in life. And the coolest thing about LEAP is that I've asked so many of my celebrity patients and business leaders to come and help, and they do. We've had Mark Wahlberg, Paula Abdul, Michael Strahan, Kathy Bates, Anthony Hopkins, Apollo Ono, Eric Garcetti, Jason Alexander. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And these people come and share the secrets of their success with our LEAP students. Typically, we get about 500 to 550 students every summer, and we literally pack them with so much information. It's like drinking from a fire hose. And one of the parts that the students love most is when we bring in these mentors. So we started this Meet the Mentor series because we didn't want this to just be a one and done week. We wanted to do it throughout the year and continue to give these students great information from great mentors to teach them how to do businesses in every field you could ever imagine. So today's Meet the Mentor is my dear friend Ryan Powers. Let me tell you a little bit about Ryan. As an actor, writer, and producer, Ryan Powers recently completed his feature film, Sydney vs. Swan. He starred as Swan. His previous acting roles include She-Hulk on Disney+, Mandalorian, Disney+, Grease Live, Fox, Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., ABC, and Shane Black's The Nice Guys. Ryan's directorial debut short film comedy, Broken Heart, just finished its festival run, which included OUTFEST, Dances with Films, and the Oscar-qualifying Cleveland and Seattle Film Festivals. Broken Heart received awards for Best Comedy, Best LGBT Short Film, and the Indie Spirit Award. He won multiple Best Actor awards for his psychological horror short In These Parts, which he also wrote and produced. Ryan is prepping for a second film, a twisty psychological horror in the vein of The Shining, Black Swan, and Saltburn. And my daughter may have a little part in doing the music in that, which we can talk about. The film is currently set to shoot this year at an oceanfront resort in Massachusetts. Ryan, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And we had your husband last week, and you are following up this week.
I'm flattered anyone would want to hear from me, so thanks for having me.
No, I think you have a great story. I mean, you grew up in Franklin,
yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of loved theater and arts and all that. So on a whim, you thought, I think I'll go on a cruise ship. And the rest is history. Tell me how that all happened.
I guess that's the story. Yeah, no, I don't have anyone in my family who's ever been in the arts or theater or music or dance or anything like that. But from an early age, I always knew, like very early, I would end up, it was film and TV that I wanted to end up doing. And you know, where I grew up in just a suburb in Massachusetts, you don't just start doing that by any means. And so there was theater, local theater that I would be a part of. And there was actually, outside of normal school, there was a performing arts school called the Franklin School for Performing Arts. And through them I trained in, even though I wanted movies and TV, I sort of trained in acting, singing, dancing to get sort of a well-rounded training and experience. We would travel around. They provided a lot of opportunities for performing down in Disney World and over in Europe, and that was very lucky. But then I went on to study I went to a conservatory at the University of Miami, Florida, Bachelor of Music in musical theater, actually. Still just to get sort of even though like Broadway wasn't my main goal, it was to get sort of a well-rounded education in the arts. And the way a cruise ship comes in is because, you know, my whole class who was sort of focused on Broadway dreams, we all moved to New York together. And I was doing some theater in and outside of New York when an opportunity came to be a dancer on a cruise ship.
And you're not a dancer.
No, I am. It's just that that was never my passion.
It wasn't your strength either.
Well, no, I've done it from a very early age, and because that's part of musical theater, that's how I got into the conservatories. And so, yeah, I'm a tap dancer. I would be the lead of tap musicals and all that. Yeah, so I worked as a professional dancer for years. It's just never been, I always just knew what I really wanted to do, if that makes sense. But no, I started dancing early on. But yeah, so I became a replacement dancer on that ship.
This was Carnival Cruise, right?
No, Jason worked on Carnival Cruises, but this was a Royal Caribbean cruise, which was kind of funny because my family had done like vacations on Royal as a kid, and when I found out that this could be an opportunity, I sent in a video dancing and they hired me, and that's where I met him, and I ended up doing a few more contracts, but as a singer on the cruise ships, and sort of traveled around. We went to around South America. I spent Christmas in Antarctica one year and went all around, but the cool thing about cruise ships, aside from the travel and performing, is that you can really save money because you don't really have any bills to pay.
Yeah,
and so
and you have a room
I saved up to move to LA.
Yeah. Okay, so just out of curiosity, on a personal note, you met Jason, on your husband, on your very first cruise.
Yes.
Right?
He was a singer when I came on as a dancer. We met there. When you work on a cruise ship, you know, it's not for everyone, but you're in such a bubble away from the world, and at this time it wasn't what like social media is now and everything, and so we didn't know what was on the radio, we didn't know what was in the movie theater. You're just out there waking up in a different country every day with your like 12-person cast who you live with and then go work with and eat with, and so if you become close with someone, it's like a boot camp relationship. That's what we were. So like within a month it was like we had been, you know, dating for 2 years and we stuck together and then on cruise ships, they sort of like keeping couples together, unlike other businesses, because it keeps people happy when they send them out on the water. And so, we traveled around for a while until it got to be time for us to get back to normal land.
So you guys went from cruise ships to LA.
To LA.
Jason is casting with Marvel now.
Yes.
You made your first own feature film, right?
Yeah.
And that went really well, and now you're prepping for your next one.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's where I am now, but came out here, and it was sort of like, since I hadn't studied writing or producing or even filmmaking, I had this mentality that I would be an imposter to try to do any of those things, and I had studied acting. So I was like, I'm going to try just to focus on that. But it wasn't too long before just the sort of waiting for someone to pick you to be in their project or waiting for an audition just wasn't enough for me.
Yeah, no, I love your kind of your thought process, and I think it would be really valuable for you to share with students, because you're right, you can wait and wait and wait and nothing happens. You didn't do that.
No.
So you kind of took the bull by the horn. So let's talk about you know, your entree into this profession and what you did instead of just sitting there and waiting for rejection all the time.
Yeah, no, and I'll start by saying I'm thrilled to share what my path was. I'm not saying this is like the right answer for anyone. It depends what you want to be doing. But for me, I mean, I was sort of, it's come full circle a little bit, because way back I was sort of that, you know, geeky kid who was like asking the principal in elementary school if I could create my own play that I'm going to write, direct, star, and make my friends come rehearse and then put it on for the whole school, and they would let me do it. And it turns out that's like sort of what I'm doing now. But especially these days, it is a lot easier to just create your own content in a way that it didn't used to be. And even, what is it, almost over a decade now, I would see people like Lena Dunham, who her show Girls comes out, and you see the credits, and it's like, wait, she created it, she wrote it, she stars in it, she's producing it, everything. And it just, as I was saying before, like you can feel like just because you didn't study this particular thing, maybe you're not invited. All it takes is to be a writer is to write. And to produce, what you have to do is be willing to make calls and gather a group of people who might be passionate about the same thing. And it's problem solving. And as you get more experience, there are all types of producers, and you can find your lane, what you're good at. Some people are good at fundraising, some are creative. But for me, it was like I started writing, cast myself in it, produced it. And from the beginning, when you have such a small team, I was carrying around bags of props that I had made, and I was decorating the whole room as the set designer. And so just like making it happen, because it wasn't, no one was knocking on my door begging me to be the lead of their thing. And
but once you have that and it's done, then what? Because obviously you want people to see it. And,
totally.
You know.
Well, and I'll say this too, is that like as much as you can believe in yourself, the truth, for better or for worse, in this industry is that it does take other people to believe also in what you're doing, because it's a collaborative business. It takes someone else to be like, hey, this is worth making. And there's always going to be, you just have to sometimes find your tribe of people that are going to come on board with you, and then you can really make it happen. And you know, don't give up by any means if you get a few rejections, because that's all this industry is a bunch of rejections a lot of the time. But if you find your people and that you might have the same interests and can just make things happen together, that's how you start, you know, submitting to film festivals, and ideally you'll find the right place there, and then you start to network and think of your next project that you could do. And something big for me is trying to make high quality things for as small budget as possible.
So let's go through the whole process.
Yeah.
So, you know, you decided you were going to make your first film. You wrote it.
Started with like short films and stuff like
Okay.
that before I was ready to do a full feature. Yeah.
But once you were, you wrote it.
Yeah.
Then, you know, then what? How'd you raise funds? I mean, where'd you get the money from and all that?
What my experience has been, so I had done a short film with a director that I knew, and he is he's so experienced in being scrappy and so connected to people that are cameramen and just anyone on a crew, the lighting guys and everything, who you find people at first at that level who are not doing it just for a big paycheck, and who might want to do it for the creative reasons. And we just kept an insanely small budget and found our own investors, actually. You know, when you do it for such a small budget, the chance of having a return is much better once you go out and sell it. But we got some really, just through connections, we would send the scripts to some very experienced working actors, and because they liked the script, they came on board for a lower price than normal, and it became one of the most satisfying things, because it was like we didn't wait for someone to tell us we could do the film. We just found a bunch of LA people who wanted to work on something and made it happen, and we're just now finishing that up to take it out to sell it.
And so the first thing you did when you were done, though, was enter it into these film festivals, right?
Well, we're just now finishing that first film. The post-production part takes a while, but we now, through connections we have, we're going to take it out to the streaming services or studios who might be interested, take it out to the big agencies, as well as submit it to some of the bigger festivals to maybe have a premiere there.
So are you allowed to say how much you spent making it? Or is
No.
No. Okay.
One day, privately.
Okay, privately.
But no, especially because we want to take it out and sell for a certain amount. It wouldn't help me to say how much I made it for.
All right. Fair enough. So you're about to finish your first one, and then I love the story how literally in one day you kind of wrote the second one. Right.
Oh, well, it came up, no, that would be crazy. But I wrote it in about 11 days, which is still pretty crazy for a full movie script. But once I had the idea and we had figured out a location in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, sometimes as a writer it can be like, well, I can write about anything, that can be harder. But once I was like, if I write something for this specific hotel on the water in Cape Cod, I'm a fan of horror and psychological horror, and once I narrowed it down, for some reason I sat down and just pounded out this script, and to my surprise, the people I sent it to really loved it, and so we've got a lot of momentum going for it, But because, again, I'm sort of fundraising on my own, I mean, for better or worse, Hollywood, at least the state of it right now, they spend the movies on the big superhero films, the sequels to things, the things that are based on books or material that already exists in the world, so that it's less of a risk. A lot of times indie projects are left to find their own financing to get off the ground, and then you can sort of go to the bigger companies to use their expertise on distributing, if they like your film, and distribution and sales.
So we have a very special kind of personal message that I want to share with you, because when students come to LEAP, one of the things I always stress is in life, it's not necessarily what you know, but who you know. And I like to get to know my new patients. And Ryan came in as a new patient, and he told me he was a writer and actor and da-da-da-da, and we got started talking. And he told me about this new film that he's doing, and I thought, wow, that really sounds great. It turns out my daughter Anna, who's going to be here doing a Meet the Mentor soon, is an up-and-coming singer, writer, performer.
First night sleeping without you, let's feel it, baby.
She has written actually a few songs for some feature films. So I said, hey Ryan, why don't you give Anna a crack at writing your theme song for your movie? So we met with Ryan and his husband Jason and Anna's producer AC Burrell, and we had this little brainstorming session, and out of that came this amazingly beautiful song.
Oh my God, it's incredible. And you know, that stuff can happen, especially in LA. You'll meet someone and they'll be like, hey, maybe you should whatever. But Doc is no joke when it comes to this stuff. I mean, when I met, he wasn't kidding about his daughter. She's incredible. We really hit it off about the project, and she totally gets it, and really excited about that. Yeah, it's amazing.
So we have our fingers crossed. We're out on the funding road.
Yep.
And as
It's
soon
gonna
as
happen.
we nail that, it's
Yeah.
off to the East Coast, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it's going to happen. It's like, if it gets delayed another month or another month, whatever, but I'm not someone who just sort of lets it go. It's going to happen one way or the other.
So you have always had this dream of being an actor in Hollywood. How's that going?
It's funny. It's not a yes or no answer, I will say, because you know, anytime you reach a certain point, there's always, of course, with anyone, it's human, the next thing that you haven't done yet. And so that's not to say I don't appreciate, there are certain things about my life that if I told myself as a kid I would get to work with this person, or this person would love my script, or these agencies would love it, I would be like, oh my God, the ultimate dream. And in other ways, I'm still just a total average nobody trying to break in still. So it'll always be changing, but I can absolutely acknowledge that there are already things and shows I've been on and stuff that are totally the dream. Yeah, so it'll happen slowly, and there'll be a lot of time in between each good thing. But yeah, in some ways it's been amazing, in some ways it's still a work in progress.
So, I mean, based on what you've already discussed, I would say your recommendation to young students who want to pursue the arts is don't sit around and wait for it to happen, make it happen. And the two things I always say, if you come to LEAP and you walk away with these two concepts, I feel like we did my job. Number one, don't wait for opportunities to make them.
Yeah.
And number two, when you get an opportunity, don't take it, master it.
Absolutely.
And you had a lot of background in order to do what you're doing. It wasn't like you just kind of sat down one day and said, oh, I think I'm gonna write and star and produce and da-da-da. I mean, there was a long road to get there, right?
Totally. Yeah, a few things that come to mind, first of all, is like, basically, it almost has nothing to do with your talent a lot of times. There's just so many people trying to do this stuff that if you do sort of sit and wait, you'd have to get really lucky for it to all just be knocking on your door. And so and it also doesn't mean everyone has to want to become a writer or a producer along the way, but also you're never it's never too late to start. Like, just because you maybe didn't grow up performing and doing all these things doesn't mean that you can't start today. What I will say is that a lot of people in this industry, in my experience, try to find the boxes that they should tick that they think someone else wants. And I think that can be super limiting and can make a lot of people the same as one another. And usually, even though it's so hard to avoid that because you just want the job and you want someone to be like, I've given them what they want. They're going to hire me because I did the thing that I think they want. Usually it's the thing that makes you special or different that is going to be the thing that ends up working in your favor, in my experience. So don't fight against what makes you unique just to try to conform, because a lot of people are trying to just conform to what they think people want in this town.
That's awesome. If we have students watching this who are interested to reach you, what's the best way to do that?
I would say Instagram. Feel free to reach out. It's Ryan Powers, but with a Z on there, so RyanPowerZ.
Oh, that's easy. Awesome. Yeah. And I want you and your husband both to be at LEAP as mentors.
I would love that.
We on Friday we have a mentor workshop where we'll have 100 different professionals from all walks of life. Students get to sit at a table. Every 30 minutes we rotate. It's like speed dating.
Cool.
And you get to ask all the questions you want about their career, their challenges, how they succeeded in overcoming them. And it's usually pretty much every year it's kind of the highlight of the week for students. So check out LEAP at www.leapfoundation.com. If you are a student 15 to 25, if you are a parent watching this and you have a student 15 to 25, send them to LEAP this year. It'll be awesome. Dr. Bill, over and out.